We are still solving systems. So remember, that's when you have two or more equations with the same letters. Last lesson, we solved by graphing. So we looked to see where the two lines intersected when we graphed them. But sometimes lines don't intersect in a nice location. Like this one here. It's somewhere between 2 and 3, but I don't know exactly where. And on the y, it's somewhere between -1 and -2, but I don't know. You know, it could be 2.5, it could be 2.4, it could be 2.6. And then this guy down here could be like -1.7. I don't really know. So sometimes lines don't intersect in nice locations. So we need different ways of being able to solve. So we have two other methods called substitution and elimination. And so today we're going to learn about substitution. And then the next lesson you will learn about elimination. Okay, so like I said, you can solve systems lots of ways. Graphing is one of them, but sometimes they don't intersect in nice locations. So we have other methods. So today, let's talk about substitution. Your number one goal is to have an equation where one of the variables is by itself, meaning either x is by itself or y is by itself on one side of the equals, and everything else is on the other side of the equals. If we don't have that happen, then we need to find the variable that has a 1 in front of it and get it by itself. So like in this example, I would want to get this y by itself because it's the only one that has a 1 in front. So I would have to get it by itself by moving the -6x. And then I would be able to start. So that's your number one goal with substitution. Have a variable all by itself on one side of the equals and then everything else on the other side. And if it doesn't happen, look for the variable with the 1 in front and get it by itself. Okay, so let's just start. So looking at number 1 here, do you see a variable where it's all by itself on one side of the equals? Yeah, x is all by itself on the top equation on the left side of the equals. So that means this problem is substitution ready. So we're going to do this thing that I like to call bread meet bread. I used to not do it in algebraic reasoning. I used to only do it in Algebra 1, but I have found that it really helps my algebraic reasoning kids as well. So I'm just going to do it. If it helps you, let's do it. So the equation that is substitution ready, it goes in the first column and it goes in the last column. The other equation that's not substitution ready goes in the middle. And we call it bread meet bread. We're making a sandwich. All right, so the equation that is substitution ready, which I knew that because it had a variable by itself on the left side of the equals, goes in the first and third column, and the other equation goes in the middle. All right, so here we go. Since this is what x equals, you're going to take -4y and put it in the x. If this said y equals, you would have put it into the y. But because it's x equals, you put the -4y in the x. So you recopy the 3. As soon as you see your x, you slap your parentheses down. You're plugging -4y into the x. And then you recopy everything that's back behind it. So I recopy the plus 2y and I recopy the equals 20. Now I just have an equation to solve. Okay, so multiplying 3 times -4y, I get -12y. And then I'm just going to recopy. Remember, if you ever have like terms on the same side of the equals, you can combine them. So since these y's are on the same side of the equals, I can combine them together. Don't move them, just combine them up. So -12y plus 2y makes a -10y. And then I'm going to bring down my equals 20. And then to get y by itself, how do I get rid of that -10? I divide by it. So I undo smush multiplication with division. So I divide both sides by -10. So negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1. So all I'm left with is 1y, or y. And on the right side, 20 divided by negative 10 makes negative 2. Okay, so now I'm going to take what y equals, so this is what y equals, and I'm going to put it in the y of the third column. So it says y equals, so it goes in the y. So I recopy x equals negative 4. I'm going to slap my parentheses down, and then I'm putting negative 2 into the y. So now I can work it out. Negative 4 times negative 2 makes a positive 8, and that's my answer. So remember when lines intersected, they intersected in a point? So this is the same thing. The x-coordinate goes first, the y-coordinate goes second. So 8, negative 2. So you want the x first, the y second. You want your letters to be alphabetical. Okay, so this is called substitution, and you should vaguely remember it from Algebra 1. And I just think that displaying your work like this really helps keep people organized, but of course it does take a little more space. Okay, now number 2. I'm going to see if I can squeeze it in here. I got to get my bread, meat, bread ready to go. So bread, meat, bread. Okay, we need the biggest section for the meat here. Okay, so do you see a variable all by itself on one side of the equals? Yes, the m is all by itself on the left side of the equals on the top equation. So that means this top equation is substitution ready. So this is our bread. So it goes in the first column and the third column. Can I squeeze it in there? Why, got it. Barely. The other equation is your meat, so it goes in the middle column. Now this problem is not dealing with x and y, so when I go to tell the answer at the very end, I'll have to put my letters alphabetical. And what comes first? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. So M, N. So M will go first, N will go second. All right, ready to plug in? Here we go. Since this says M equals, we're going to take what M equals and we're going to plug it into the M of the middle equation. Okay, so I'm going to bring down the negative 6n. I'm going to bring down the plus 8. But where the M is, I need to slap parentheses down and I need to plug the 4n plus 11 into it. So 4n plus 11, and then bring down your equals 36. Oh, I got to write tiny. So since this said m equals, I took what m equaled and I plugged it into the m. If it would have said n equals, I would have put it into the n. So you have to pay attention to what letter this is. Okay, so now remember wherever that variable is, you need to slap parentheses down when you plug it in. So now to solve this equation, the first thing I need to do is distribute. So I need to distribute this 8 with everything in the parentheses. So 8 times 4n makes a positive 32n. And 8 times 11 makes 88. I'm going to bring down the negative 6n that was at the front of the problem, and I'm going to bring down the equals 36 that's in the back. Okay, at this point you're looking for like terms on the left side of the equals and then on the right. And on the left side I do have like terms, the negative 6n and the positive 32n. So don't move them, just combine them up. So negative 6 plus 32 makes 26n. You subtract and take the sign of the bigger, and then bring down your plus 88 and bring down your equals 36. Okay, so now, since there's only one variable, remember you're going to move the guy next to it by zeroing it out. So you need to add or subtract to make this 88 disappear. So since it's a positive 88, we have to subtract 88 to make it go away. So 88 minus 88 is 0. Your 26n is going to drop down. Your equals is going to drop down. And then I need to figure out what 36 minus 88 is. So since that's positive and that's negative, I subtract and take the sign of the bigger, and that's going to be negative 52. I'm so sorry if you can't read this. Negative 52. Okay, and then in order to get n by itself, I would have to divide both sides by 26, and I don't have room to write it, so can you tell me, if you were to divide both sides by 26, what's negative 52 divided by 26? Negative 2. Okay, so now we're ready to plug this into the third side. So since this says n equals, we're going to take this negative 2 and we're going to put negative 2 right there in that n. So it's going to be 4, slap your parentheses down, plug negative 2 into that n, and then recopy plus 11. Okay, so now I'm going to work it out. 4 times negative 2 makes negative 8. I'm going to recopy the plus 11. And then negative 8 plus 11 makes a positive 3. And that's my M answer. So remember, we want to write this alphabetical. So M comes before N, so it's 3, negative 2. And that's my solution. If I was to graph these two lines, then this is where they would intersect. Do you remember this method from your past? And in Algebra 1, you may have had a teacher that didn't show their work like this. And like I said, I used to not show work like this in algebraic reasoning, but I had so many students that were confused. So I just went back to how I do it in Algebra 1, and it seemed to help more kids than it did hurt them. So it's just an organizational tool. All right, let's look at number 3. So looking at it, do we have an equation where a variable is by itself on one side of the equals? No. It doesn't say x equals with everything on the other side, or it doesn't say y equals with everything on the other side. We don't have that. So this is when you're going to look for the variable that has a 1 in front of it. And it's this bottom x. This bottom x has the 1 in front of it. So your goal is to get this x by itself. So you need to move the guy next to him by zeroing him out. So to get rid of addition of 2y, you're going to subtract 2y. So this way, 2y minus 2y zeroes out. All you're left with is x. And then the right-hand side, you can't add or subtract these because this has a y and this doesn't. So we're just going to bring it down. I'm going to bring the negative 2y down first, and then I'm going to bring down the positive 3. Now I have my bread. So every time you do substitution, you need a variable all by itself on one side of the equals with everything on the other side. As long as you have that, you're ready for your bread, meat, bread situation. All right, so here I go. Bread, meat, bread. All right, so this equation right here is my bread because it had the variable by itself. So it goes in the first column and the third. The other equation is going to go in the middle. Ooh. I'm starting to write the wrong one. This is my other equation, so that's what goes in the middle. 5x minus 3y equals 2. And just to backtrack, the reason I solve for the variable that has a 1 in front is so I don't have to deal with fractions. Like if I would have tried to solve for this y up here, at some point I would divide everything by negative 3. I'm going to get a lot of fractions. If I would have tried to solve for this y right here, at some point I would have divided everything by 2, which would have been a lot of fractions. So if you find the variable that has the 1 in front, you want to get him by himself because then you don't end up dividing by anything, so you have no fractions. Okay, here we go. Time to substitute. So this says x equals. So since it says x equals, we're going to take all of what it equals and plug it into the x. So 5, slap your parentheses down, plug negative 2y plus 3 into the x, close your parentheses, and then just recopy everything that's in the back. So recopy minus 3y and recopy equals 2. So at this point, you need to get rid of the parentheses by distributing. So 5 times negative 2y and 5 times 3. So 5 times negative 2y is negative 10y, and 5 times 3 is 15. And then I'm just going to bring down the minus 3y, and I'm going to bring down the equals 2. At this point, you're looking for like terms on the left side of the equals and on the right. And I have like terms on the left side. I've got this negative 10y and this minus 3y. So remember, don't move them. If they're on the same side of the equals, combine them up. So negative 10y minus 3y makes a negative 13y. Since they're both negative, you add them and get a bigger negative. Drop down the plus 15. Drop down the equals 2. Okay, so now I only have one variable. So I'm going to look at the guy next to him and zero him out. So to get rid of addition of 15, I have to do the opposite and subtract. So 15 minus 15 is 0. Shoop. My negative 13y drops down. My equals drops down. And then 2 minus 15 makes negative 13. Okay, and then I'm running out of room, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. By negative 13. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 13, and that's going to make a positive 1. All right, now I'm ready to plug in again. So this says y equals, so I'm going to take what y equals and plug it into the y. So it's negative 2, slap your parentheses down, get your 1 up there into the y, and then recopy plus 3. So now working it out, negative 2 times 1 makes negative 2. Recopy the plus 3. And negative 2 plus 3 makes 1. So my answer is 1, 1. You do want to write it alphabetical, x before y, but I didn't even have to worry about that because they're both 1s. So there's no way to screw it up. All right, so this one we had a little bit extra work to do because it wasn't substitution ready. There wasn't an x by itself on one side of the equals or a y by itself on one side of the equals at the beginning. So we had to find the variable with the 1 in front and get it by itself, which we've practiced that skill, so that skill should not be overwhelming. Look at 4. Is 4 substitution ready? Nope. There is not an x by itself or a y by itself. So now I'm looking for the variable with the 1 in front. Once again, it happens to be the bottom x. Now that's just coincidence. It doesn't have to be that bottom x. So now to get that x by itself, I need to move the guy next to it. So to get rid of the addition of 4y, I have to do the opposite and subtract 4y. So this way, 4y minus 4y is 0. Shoop, it's gone. I'm going to bring down the x. I'm going to bring down the equals. And then I can't actually subtract these because this has a y and this doesn't. So I'm just going to recopy. I'm going to write the negative 4y first. And I'm going to write the minus 4 in the back. Now it's substitution ready. This guy is going to be my bread. Okay, so I'm going to make my little columns. Bread, meat, bread. Okay, so once you have the variable by itself, you put that in the first column and you put it in the third column. The other equation that you haven't done anything with, which is this top equation, goes in the middle. He's our meat. Bread, meat, bread. Okay, it's time to substitute. This is the letter X. So since it says X equals, I need to plug all of this into the X. So here I go. I rewrite the 3. I slap parentheses down where the X is. I'm going to plug negative 4y minus 4 into it. Close the parenthesis. And I'm going to recopy everything that's back behind it. So I'm going to bring down the plus 5y, and I'm going to bring down the equals 2. Okay, at this point, I need to distribute to get rid of parentheses. So 3 times negative 4y makes a negative 12y, and 3 times negative 4 makes a negative 12. And then I'm going to bring down the plus 5y, and I'm going to bring down the equals 2. Okay, once you distribute, this is when you look for like terms on the left side of the equals and like terms on the right. And I do have like terms on the left. So I'm going to just combine them up. Don't try moving them, just combine them. Okay, so negative 12y plus 5y makes a negative 7y. I'm going to bring down the minus 12, and I'm going to bring down the equals 2. Okay, at this point, since I only have one y, then I'm going to save him for last and move the guy next to him by zeroing him away. So to get rid of subtraction, we add. So I'm adding 12 to both sides. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0. The negative 7y drops. That equals drops, and then 2 plus 12 makes 14. So now, to undo multiplication, I'm going to divide. I'm not going to show the work. What do you get if you divide both sides by negative 7? Negative 2. Okay, it's time to substitute again. So this says y equals, so I'm going to take what y equals and put it in the y. So it's going to be negative 4, slap parentheses down, get negative 2 into that y, and recopy minus 4. Okay, working it out. Negative 4 times negative 2 makes a positive 8. Recopy the minus 4 in the back, and 8 minus 4 makes 4. How do you think you'd write the answer? 4, negative 2, because you write it alphabetically. X comes before y, so you write your X first and your Y second. How are you feeling about this? Basically, if you know how to solve an equation, this should not be too difficult. If you're still struggling solving equations, then this is going to be quite the challenge. Okay, let's look at number 6. I'm skipping number 5 right now. Let's go to number 6. Is it substitution ready? Do we have a variable by itself? We do not. There is not an x by itself or a y by itself. So now search for the variable that has the 1 in front. And here it is. It's this top y. Okay, I need to get that y by itself by getting rid of the guy next to it. So how would you move this negative 2x? You would add it. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. Okay, so negative 2x plus 2x is 0. So all I have left is the y on the left. And then on the right side, I can't add these because this has an x and this doesn't. So I'm going to bring the positive 2x down first. And then I'm going to bring down the minus 3. Now it's substitution ready. All right, this is my bread. So let me make my little columns. So bread, meat, bread. All right, so I'm going to take the equation where the variable's all by itself on one side of the equals and write it in the first column and write it in the third column. The other equation This guy right here goes in the middle. So let's put negative 4x plus 2y equals negative 6 in the middle. Okay, now I'm ready to substitute. This says y equals, so since it says y equals, I'm going to plug all of this where? Into the y. All right, here I go. I'm going to recopy the negative 4x. I'm going to recopy the plus 2. But as soon as you see that y, slap parentheses down, plug your 2x minus 3 into them, and then bring down the equals negative 6. Okay, at this point, I need to distribute. So I'm going to distribute the 2 times 2x and the 2 times negative 3. So 2 times 2x makes a positive 4x, and 2 times negative 3 makes negative 6. Now, this negative 4x that was on the left, I just bring it down, and this equals negative 6, I just bring that down. Okay, at this point, you're looking for like terms on the left side of the equals and then like terms on the right. And I have like terms on the left. So I'm going to combine negative 4x plus 4x. Do you know what that is? It's 0. Negative 4x plus 4x is 0. Shoop, those x's are gone. So I just bring down the negative 6, the equals, and the negative 6. So my x is zeroed out on me. I don't have any letters left. Okay, when letters disappear, you either have a true statement, which is all real numbers or infinitely many, or you have a false statement, which is no solution. Is this true? Does negative 6 equal negative 6? Yes, that's true. So this is all real numbers or infinitely many. So do you remember the other day when we were solving by graphing and we had the situation where we had a line on top of another line called coinciding lines and they touched everywhere? So that is what the answer was infinitely many. And that's what would happen if you actually graph these lines. If you graph these two lines, they would be coinciding lines. They'd be two lines on top of each other, touching everywhere. So infinitely many solutions. That's our answer. And I have nothing else to do with this problem. Now, if this would have zeroed out and this was a false statement, like negative 6 equals negative 8. If it had been a false statement, then it'd be no solution. And then that would be parallel lines, because parallel lines never touch, so no solution. So visually, because this is infinitely many, the picture would look like two lines on top of each other. Whereas these other ones that are giving you an answer, that means that these are intersecting lines. Remember, wherever lines intersect, that's their solution. Okay, how are you feeling about this? Good enough? I think I'm just going to skip number 5, just so this video is not too long. Okay, we're going to stop there. I hope you understand. Smiley face.